Hello, my name is Ruhat Şengül, and the other project member's name is Mehmet Kızılırmak, and our project group's name is Twodots. And here is our game. This is an endless climbing game, and we control our ball with only two keys, and those are left and right arrow keys. The jumping is done automatically by the player controller, and when it collides with a platform, it automatically jumps again. The game uses a procedural map generation, and we only create 7 steps further in order to prevent out-of-memory exception, and we also delete 2 steps behind in order to prevent that situation. As for the difficulty of the game, for the first 100 points, the death zone follows us rather slowly, and after that it gets its pace up and then starts to follow faster. As you can see, it got really close to the player, and if we make even one mistake, it can finish the game. Also, the score system comes from the height of the player. The Y value just copied to the scoreboard. As for the maps, we have 6 prefabs, and they're spawning randomly back to back. We also have a color picker up here. We can change the color of the player we use, and this is the death scene of the game. We can start over. As you can see, it is going a lot slower than when we go up high. One of our promises was changing the colors, the other one was difficulty, and the third one was what was it? The sound, yeah, the sound. We have added background music and audio clip that plays that says game over when we die. So that is about it about the game. Let's hear that sound again. As for our project structure, on top of the assets we have color picker that we used on top left corner that we used to change the color of the ball. And in materials we have some materials that we don't use anymore, and those are character color and eye color. And also there's 2 voice files in there. This one is the game over sound, and this is the background sound. Those obstacle prefabs are made with Blender in order to create map prefabs. The plugin is just for JetBrains, and in prefabs there are 6 random maps. All have different platforms but same height. And there are 2 screens. The sample scene is where the game goes, and the death screen is the one that we saw when we collided with the death zone. Let's take a look at our scripts. This is the death zone script, and we use player death zone transforms and the positions of both of them, and we initially set the isThat boolean value to false, and we also have a death menu variable. In start we locate the game object that has player tag and give it to the player transform. In fixed update, if that player transform is null, then we return And then these two lines just allows us to take the y value of dead zone and player transform into equation. And in those two if statements, we decide the speed of the dead zone. And if the player position y is below 100 and player position y minus dead position y is over 5 meters, we increase the y value of the dead zone by time.delta time times 2. And in this case, where our player's position y is over 100 meters, the speed of the dead zone is time.delta time times 4. And when we die, the isDead becomes true, and the death menu pops in. And this is where trigger happens. It equalizes isDead to true, and scene manager loads the death scene, and then lastly the death sound plays. In player controller we also have some variables. Let me erase them. Not. We have current jump velocity and some bool values that for is jumping and is falling, as distance, character controller, and transform values of player and the center of the map. We also have the center distance set. In start method, we get component of the character controller as controller and the audio source as the audio source. In update method, we set our speed to 9. We have our static turn degree, and we have horizontal input. And in this if statement, we rotate our character around the map, since it is a circular map. We have adjusted the numbers in there to match the exact center difference, so that the ball doesn't go off boundaries. In this if statement, if we are not jumping or falling, then we set jumping to true, and we add our current jump velocity to velocity 3.up and speed. This part makes us jump. And in this if statement, we are just checking if is falling is false or true by just looking at the vector 3.up minus, and if you have less than this given amount, then is jumping is falling is false. And in this case, if our character is both jumping and falling, then our current jump velocity is affected by the gravity, so it declines gradually, and then the character starts falling. There's a line that we use controller.move current jump velocity time.delta time. This is a specific method, I guess. We use it at the beginning of the lecture. I'm not completely sure about this line. And there's lastly a distance setter that we try to implement that takes the distance of the player between the center, and then if those distances are not the distance that we decided, we equalize to center distance that we set at the beginning of the class. In our sound manager, we have two audio clips. As usual, one of them is for that, and the other one is for background music, but we wrote jump sound. We get component as audio source, and there's a switch case statement in a play sound method. One of them is for that, and the other one is for jump. And in score class, if we have our player in the scene, and the y value of the player is over the maximum height that we reached in any given time. Then the max height becomes the y position of the player, and then this max height translates to string and then represented in the score text.